guys, welcome to the Gig Economy Podcast, episode 185, the B-side with Levi from Tip You in the App. He's already has a friend in here I see in the chat. I'm like, I didn't know Traveler knew you. I guess it's kind of a tight-knit community on YouTube. I'm sure that's where he met you, right?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. Maybe.
He just
said Syracuse. So I was like, yo, what's up? So
okay. Maybe you didn't know each other.
Geographic ties.
Awesome. How do you said you know at Casanova?
Well, he said, good to see another Syracuse guy here. And so I'm in Syracuse, but Casanova is the neighborhood, like the suburb of Syracuse that I'm at. So I wonder where Traveler's at. Traveler, where are you at, man?
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's he came from Steve from Ride Your Rodeo. I don't know if you've had contact with him, and then he's been great. Love having him here. But so yeah, finally a B-side. So Levi, just a quick little background. A while back, we decided to refresh the show a little bit, and we decided to do interviews, right, with either a gig worker or a gig creator. And then we ran out of people. And we were doing that like every other week. So we had a lot of creators come on. And then I find that a lot of gig workers don't want to come on the show because it's in a camera and, you know, they might be. But so your B-side, Larry, is it the first one this year or not?
I think it is the first one. I don't remember another one this year.
Either way, I'm glad, Levi, that we connected. I sent him a message on TikTok like forever ago. I go on these spurts on TikTok where I'm on there. I'm on my personal one all the time. Like, that's how I get my content. But then in the business one or the show one, I'm never in there. And I was like, hey, I'd love to connect with you. Crickets for so long. But I'm glad we finally connected, and love your stuff. Check out Levi on his YouTube page, Tip You in the App. Also his website at tipyouintheapp.com, which is really good. Got a lot of great content. Really enjoyed your shorts. Watching a lot of them. About a half hour before the show. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you, what market you drive in, what's your primary gig, maybe a little backstory, how you got into gig work, Levi?
Yeah, for sure. I drive primarily Uber X in Syracuse, New York. I've done a little bit of Lyft, right? I've done probably 200 Lyfts. I've done a little bit of Uber Eats. The reality is we don't have a lot of options here in Syracuse. Either you're doing Uber X or you're catching the bus. So yeah, there's just not a lot of options for us here in this market. I guess we do have Uber Comfort, but we don't have any of the other things. So how I got into it, though, is kind of a good story. Maybe it's a great story, actually, for me. I was an executive at a creative agency, a marketing company, making good money. I really enjoyed it. But like most people, I complain about money. And I was on a business trip in Las Vegas right before COVID hit. And I was complaining to my Uber driver. Branislav was his name. And I was like, dude, I need more money. I got a pregnant daughter. She's in college. I got a son about to go off to college. You know, my wife, she's lovely, but she's a stay-at-home mom. And there just wasn't enough. And he's like, you should be an Uber driver. And I was like, no, dude, I don't think you understand. I'm vice president. I make good money. I'm making 6 figures here, man. You don't even know what you're talking about. And he's like, no, trust me. You do it. You good talker. So sure, I tipped him $1, which is shitty.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Because there's that. But I signed up on the app on my flight back. And that weekend, that Saturday on my drive home from work, I just turned it on. You know, I turned it on in the left lane doing 60. And the first ride is that first exit.
Of course.
I was on 690. I was on 690 Traveler. And yeah, so I missed that exit. The passenger gets upset, but I finally made it. And I think I made like $100 that night. Just kind of you know, how you get into a rhythm and it starts happening really fast. And I loved it. And COVID hit. I got tired of the job that I had with the company I was at. I like the people, but just started thinking about different things I could do. And I did the math and I was like, I'm a pretty cheap guy, I could probably make $60,000, $70,000 a year as an Uber driver in my market if I worked 60 hours a week. So I was like, okay, if I hustled, I could make this kind of money, and that means that could pay the bills, which gave me freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And And I did. I just told my business partner I quit. I quit on Thanksgiving, and I haven't looked back. So that's kind of how I got into Uber driving. And yeah, there you go. I hope that answers your question, but that's how I did it.
Yeah, great story.
Definitely does. So as a driver in that area, cheap, you only tipped $1. Traveler, I was gonna do that joke, but he was in a rhythm, so I didn't want to interrupt. I had already
I own it. I own it.
I appreciate that.
If I could go back, I would tip him again, but
you owe your career to this guy, and he only got $1 from you.
Yeah.
So switching careers like that, I think is a unique story, because more likely it's like, oh, I got fired, or I got downsized, or I got laid off, or whatever. But you actually chose to do it. Looking back now, do you think that was a good decision? I mean, you're still doing it, so I would assume yes. But what are kind of the downfalls have you had kind of transitioning from that, like that steady paycheck of like, every week you get a check to like you got to grind it out?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, clearly I made more money as an executive at a company, right?
Sure.
So I had a good salary, had bonuses, had benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way Uber is going to pay me that kind of money. So the downside is definitely the money. If Uber was my only source of income. The second thing that I think, if I were to look back, that I wasn't prepared for was the physical nature of the business.
Yeah.
It's, when I do a 12 or 14-hour day, or if I do 40 hours in a week rideshare, man, I'm an old man. I'm only 49, but I'm feeling it. It's physically demanding.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more stressful than I think people think it is, right? They forget, they think about the drunk people, and that's part of it. But I really screwed up today. Like the stress of passenger saying he was coming out. I'm at the hospital and he's on his way. And I'm like, I freaking just want to cancel this guy, but I'm like, he's on my way home. I want to take that ride. And then I screw up. I just kind of give him a pissy attitude when he gets in the car. And I'm thinking like, I know I'm going to get a negative rating for this, but the hell, dude, I got paid 40 cents waiting 5 minutes for you. So I'm just really pissed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think those are that's that stress, that kind of stuff. I just wasn't really prepared for it. It was all roses when I made the decision, and you don't really think about the negative side to it.
Interesting that you brought up the physical part of it, because I myself have always dealt with odd enough pains throughout my life. But yeah, sitting too much is brutal. It is brutal sitting in your car that long. I mean, obviously we're supposed to like every 20 minutes get up and stretch, but like who's going to do that, right? You're grinding it out and stuff. But yeah, sitting in there, I can go about 4 hours and I'm like, okay.
Well, I'm listening to some of your shows today, Levi, and it sounds like you do make an effort to get out and exercise a little bit. It sounds like I remember one of your episodes you're talking about doing jumping jacks or stopping by the gym and doing some things.
Yeah, I definitely do. I do things like I joined a Planet Fitness primarily for the massage beds, but they are open 24 hours for the most part, so you can pop in there and go for like a 30-minute walk. I live in upstate New York, so it's snowing and I don't want to walk around outside.
Right, sure.
And there's got to be videos on TikTok of me doing jumping jacks or squats and stuff like that. Because about every 3 rides, I'm getting out of my car. Like a good example would be, I love people that have groceries because it forces me to get out of the car.
Yeah.
And I know we're not supposed to like groceries as drivers, and I understand why. But for me, it's like, it's just incentive to get up, get out, and, do some stretches, move my arms around, just do stupid stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Steve brings up a good point. Like someone should create some sort of like, I mean, let's face it, all the exercises on the internet are all just repurposed stuff that's been around for 100 years. So so me saying this is not really mind blowing, but someone should create something for gig workers.
I think I'm going to do that video this weekend. I'll do that video this weekend. I'm going to put the headband on.
Yes.
And I'm going to do a rideshare workout Bodies by Levi.
Gigger size, verbal trademark.
Yeah, there you go.
That's amazing. So you do stop every 3 rides. That's interesting. I actually like airport runs for the same reason. Or I actually will mix in food delivery with my ride share or a little shopping trip where they want 3 bottles of booze. Because then I know, A, it's paying pretty good. And B, I get out of my car, I get to walk in the store and stretch my legs. And I'm not doing any jazzercise, but at least I'm moving my legs a little bit. So,
it's nice to throw in some food delivery every now and then just to get you out of the car.
That's a good, yes. I have done a few of those, and you're right. That's a good thing. Just because if I don't, man, I'm really bad. My wife does a really good job. She makes me a meal. It's a little snack heavy, but for the most part, but yeah, it's like 2 a.m. and I'm on like the 3rd Snickers bar that I know I shouldn't have had. And I've been sitting for 4 hours, and then that Mountain Dew's kind of hitting. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh God. Yeah. So, okay, Steve, I'll do it. Full ladies gear. Count it. Book it. Book it now.
Book it.
You heard it here first.
So obviously you're doing it full time, and so the last couple of years, what would you be your like best tip for a new driver? I know you probably hear it 100 times, but something that maybe something doesn't think about, because like we talk about like what dash cams, and do you have a dash cam?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phone holders, which seems like very obvious that you should, but I've taken Ubers where people were holding their phone in their hands, and I'm like,
same here.
They're looking down like this, and I'm just like, what are we even doing here? But
yes.
Do you have anything off the top of your head that you think that has been beneficial to you, or maybe after the fact you're like, ooh, I should have done this?
Yeah, it's actually in reference to what you said. You said I'm a full-time driver, and I'm not. I work with the idea of being a full-time driver, and what that means to me is realistic expectations.
Okay.
I think we as drivers, and I know I get caught up in it too, this idea of like, man, I made $100 last hour. It was great. So I forecast, what's $100 an hour times 40 hours a week times 52? Holy crap, I'm making $250,000.
Yeah.
I'm killing it, right? And so, or I got tipped on my last 10 trips in a row. And so you put these numbers, and if you're a new driver, you don't know the downsides, right? The negatives. So I think realistic expectations. And so some that stand out to me are things like your earnings are going to fluctuate. You're going to make some great money sometimes, and sometimes it's going to be really crappy. And so as long as I know what I think I can make in a year on the law of averages, I know that's the max living expenses that I want to commit my family to. Another realistic expectation is safety. I think most people think driving a car is easy, and it is, but to make good money, we're driving really late at night with sometimes dangerous people, inebriated. We're in neighborhoods we're not familiar with. The weather could be bad. It's dark, and I'm not just thinking about getting robbed or anything like that, but quite frankly, safety of getting in a car wreck, because the app is beeping at us, the passenger in the back saying something. You probably have the music up a little bit too loud. You're in a place you're not really familiar with, and you hit a passenger. Well, this not a passenger, pedestrian, because you're not paying attention. That's never happened to me, but I guess my point is realistic expectation that something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And we've all had it. I mean, we can go through our stories if you want, but
sure.
So I think don't let the excitement of that initial cash, and the ease of which, oh wow, I'm just driving my car around, listen to music, this is fun, prevent you from having, the rose colored glasses, be a little bit more realistic. So that's my advice to any new driver.
Yeah, that's interesting too. It seems to me that, like you said, when people first start out, they do look at only the good aspects of it. And then on the other side of the pendulum, you have these people who've been doing it for several years, and they only talk about the bad stuff, and we try to be in that sweet spot in the middle. We talk about the good and the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it. We want to hear everything.
I often wonder how many people that jump in with that attitude of like, I'm going to make money, how long they last. Like if they're like, geez, after 2 weeks, they're like, nah, this isn't for me. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine quitting your job and then signing up for it and then realizing it was a mistake?
I know. Like you got some big balls, man, because that is such a jump. I've thought, so over the years, I was done lawn fertilization, and every year I get a little antsy in like January and February. I'm like, I'm going to quit and I'm going to do gig work full time, but I never, or, as much as I can, but I never really pulled the trigger on it because it's kind of scary. You know what I mean? And your market must be consistent because like for me to do it like full time, I would have to diversify between like food delivery, package delivery, depending on what's hot in the moment. You know what I mean? I couldn't just do rideshare all through the summer. I don't know. It wouldn't be successful here. So
Yeah, rideshare is not really profitable for the 3 summer months.
yeah.
Right.
Here in Syracuse. Basically, the way I'm able to make, I averaged right around $39 before expenses an hour, online hour. And that's primarily because I drove, that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. in a college town where I'm making more like $60 an hour.
Oh, wow.
Right. It's, and I'm sure Traveler can attest. It's when you're in a college town, the college, especially in a place like here where the weather's poor. I mean, the college kids, they just take Ubers a block. You know what I mean? And I think I've done a really good job of learning how to get tips with college kids. So, between sometimes we get some promos. We're not getting promos like we used to. So our promos are like 50 cents a trip right now. But if you can do 6 trips in an hour.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I'm doing 55, almost 60 trips in a day on a Friday. I'm going to do 60 trips. I'm going to knock that sucker out. So I'm going to hit the bonus. I'm going to try to get 30 of those 60 trips to tip me. And, and that's why I can make $500 on a Friday here in Syracuse.
Damn.
Yeah.
Right.
55 to 60 trips in a day. Larry, can you do that? You're in a college town.
No. I think he's got more than one college, and his college is probably bigger than Western. We're about 20,000 students. I could leave my app on. I could work 24 hours and not do 60 trips.
Well, there is we're in a little bit of a bubble, and I'm going to ruin our market, Traveler, a little bit, but I'm going to sing its praises. Our market, within about an hour of my house, there's probably 25 colleges.
Jeez.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have hills, right? And it's bad weather. And some of the colleges, the kids are pretty rich, like Syracuse University.
Yeah. Mom and daddy are paying for the Uber rides.
It's an $85,000 a year school.
Oof.
Yeah.
Right. And there's 20,000 of them, and there's Cornell. And then you got some of the state schools and stuff like that too. There's a bunch of them. And so you can just get locked in, and I'll do 6 trips in an hour, and Traveler's right, 2-block trips, because they're just going to go 2 blocks. And if the surge is happening, that 2 blocks is like a $13 trip. Oh, and because I got Taylor Swift playing, $10 tip. And Traveler's right. Cornell is a killer. Now, the problem with Cornell or Ithaca for us as rideshare drivers here in Syracuse is it's an hour drive. So if I work 12 hours down there, I'm really putting in a 16-hour day.
Yeah.
Where Syracuse is more like 40 minutes from my house. And so he's right, though. Cornell can be a massive gold mine, but you have to spend an hour and 20 minutes one way to get down there, and an hour 20 minutes to get back. And imagine driving like home at 4 a.m. You're like, I got $500 worth of cash, but I'm dying.
And with you, you got an EV, so you're not driving home without putting a charge on that thing.
That is correct. Yeah. Which is, by the way, one of the negatives of the EV I wasn't really thinking about is the commute, right? Once I'm in a market, I'm killing it.
Yeah.
But to get those 500 trips, I'm doing 350 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. With your EV though, the one thing that Tesla did it right is the superchargers, like we talked about before privately, that, you go there, it's quick, right? 20 minutes to get everything full or to 80%. And then for me, it takes me 90 minutes. So I try to avoid superchargers at all possible, unless I need to do it, obviously, but it's just slow. But that's one thing that Tesla did right in that car is charging quickly. So obviously very versed in the rideshare world. And we talked about earlier on the show how you have a lot of content. So tell me what got you into that, because I'm always curious about that. And it's good content. I'm not saying that everyone's is bad out there, but like, I don't know. I like I was going through a lot of your stories, or not, is that what it's called? Shorts. Sorry.
Shorts, yeah.
God, everything's got a new name. And I just was interested, and not just because it was you. I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, F them. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like you do a really good job. So what inspired you to do that?
Well, for 15 years, I worked in the creative world. My graduate degree is in economics, and I have another graduate degree in business. So, I'm an accountant by trade. That's what I did for the government, for the military. And when I got out, I went to graduate school at Syracuse. That's why I'm in this area. And so numbers and spreadsheets really I like them a lot. I realized, and this is probably opposite of what you'll hear from most people, but I realized I think the people that go to college to study English or art, maybe not pay for it. I understand the cost of it, but the people that are studying those, they're better thinkers, right? We think numbers matter a lot, and I understand that, but creatively speaking, they have more empathy. They understand things clear, and so I was jealous of that. And this is a long way of answering your question. So as I started working with all these creative people, I realized what I was lacking in my life was that creativity, the ability to see things through the eyes of another person with empathy, and be able to recreate that in a way that inspires them. So whether it's a book or a story or a YouTube video. And so I did that for many years, working with these people, artists and graphic designers and videographers. So when I quit my job, I landed a couple of clients. So I do consult. I do have clients that pay me both to create content to show them how to do it. But I was lacking the ability to prove to them that content really works.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then I saw a hole in our market. The hole was that the apps don't care about us. Right. And I don't think the passengers care about us. Right. So we're out here alone. We're all solopreneurs by ourselves. And then, so I started joining communities, but it was like pissy. It was really sucky. Right. A bunch of people complaining to each other. And I got bored with that. And so I realized if there's umpteen million drivers and there's 5,000 on a couple of different Facebook groups or whatever that are complaining all the time, the reality is most people are happy. They're just looking for somebody to unify that. So I kind of put two and two together, and I said, hey, I can create Tip You in the app as a way to build a community. Now it's positive and it's enjoyable. I mean, but I'm still being real. I'm not hiding the negativity.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'm trying to be positive just to build a community. And I use that content, and that's the only content I share with my clients in a sales process. I had a sales meeting today, and this guy's like, well, show me your work. I was like, dude, I'm an Uber driver. And they're like, get the frick out. They're all blown away. I'm like, no, look, here's my stuff. And so I use Tipping in the app to do that. So for me, it's fun because I can be an artist. And it's something that now being almost 50, I that's where I want my life to be. And I want to connect with humans, my fellow drivers, in a very meaningful way. So a good example is like on Saturday night, I was out Uber driving, and I got a phone call from my daughter. I was down in Ithaca, Traveler, and I was down in Ithaca, and about 10:30 at night, my daughter calls me. She's 26, and she says, "Hey, Dad, Mom's in an ambulance. She had something wrong. She passed out." So my wife passed out. So I raced to the hospital, and there's something wrong with her heart. And I posted a short little piece of information on Tip You in the app to this small group of 1,400 people, and the overwhelming support of people in that group that came back to me. That's what I'm looking for. So but if you were to look at the photo, there's the artistry to the photo, right? I thought I didn't want to show my wife laying in bed horribly sick, but I created a beautiful photo that spoke to me from an artist perspective. And then I really was happy that a lot of past or fellow drivers, that's what the community is all about to me. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's why I do it.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's neat that you're creating this community. Like you said, it gets really old really quick listening to just the people who complain about it. I can read one or two of those and I'm done. I don't want to hear about it. If you want to complain, but you don't have any solutions, you don't have any alternatives, then, you're just venting, and I can only read so many of those. But making that connection, I see you're making your connection, like I said, with other drivers, other gig workers and stuff. I have a little bit different bent. My connection is more with my passengers. Like I said, I'm in a college town, but it's a small college town. We're about 70,000 population in the city. So I have an Instagram called Lifting with Larry. I take selfies with the college kids. And I mean, it's not unusual. Once or twice a month, I'll have somebody who's like, "Oh man, I'm getting ready to graduate, and I had you when I was a freshman, and now I remember my first Uber ride. I didn't know anything about what I was doing, and you dropped me off at this frat party or whatever it was." And it's like watching more of your kids grow up. Not that I need any more kids, but it's really cool. And so I think you building a community like that, amongst drivers, where you do have people that aren't just bitching and moaning all the time about it. Because if you're doing that, then go find something else to do. There's plenty of stuff to do.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, totally. So you said your community. Do you have something on your website, or are you talking about like a Facebook group, or?
Yeah, so Tip You in the app is literally just a brand. So, and we all know what that means, and that's the cleverness behind it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of tongue-in-cheek fun behind it, and it's fun to explain to my passengers. Every time I explain it to them, I get a tip, which is really cool, right? So it's a subliminal way to get a tip, maybe. But no, it's a brand. So again, I created Tip You in the app to do all those things that we talked about, artistry and connecting with the community, but I use it as a proof of concept for sales. So certain things that I do would be something like I have a YouTube channel. I have a TikTok where I do a lot more fun things, right? And I don't use Twitter in that way anymore. I used to use Twitter under my own name because I want to talk about golf. I want to talk about other things there. But I have a Facebook group that I'm very, very meticulous about policing and keeping that going too. I did a Spotify podcast for a little while, and I backed off of that just because I'm trying not to publish the exact same content everywhere. I want to publish different content in different places. And so creatively, I don't think I've come up with the right podcast yet, that I want to do. Yeah. So Tip You in the app is a brand that could be a mug one day. I don't know. It's just a brand that I want to be able to publish content under. Yeah. So that, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to do.
Yeah. We have a Patreon tier, and it's Tip You in the app. That is,
nice.
That's the $5 tier. The $10 tier is the unicorn ride. And I don't know if you've heard of that, or like, it used to be a big deal back in the day when the multiplier was around, and you get a 8 times multiplier, and you'd make $200 on a 4-minute ride. You know what I mean? And like, that's the unicorn ride. So
yeah, back in the day,
I like all that stuff. So you create all this content. I like that you said you try to create different content. I don't know how you have the time for each of those platforms, because I just repurpose most of my stuff. But so what's next for you as far as like what is your end goal in regards to Tip You in the app, or just your creative part? Or would you like? I mean, do you want to be someone like the rideshare guy that has this big company that's providing content, or are you just happy the way it is?
Yeah, definitely. Harry has been, I've worked with Harry just a few times. Sergio is definitely my closer relationship with that team. And Sergio is amazing. I think Sergio is, he's a complainer, and he's kind of,
you said it.
He's kind of pissy. Sergio, when you hear this, you know what I'm talking about. But he's not a very jovial person, but I think he's hardest working guy for us drivers. So I want to be clear about that. And I like Chris too. Chris is out here in Buffalo, so he's pretty close. No, I don't want to build an agency. I want to stay by myself. I think the end game. Let me just give you the end game. I wrote a book, and I'm going to be close to publishing it. It's not under the Tip You in the app brand. It's called Best Part of a Blind Date. It's something similar to what you talked about, Larry. The stories, the people that have gotten in our cars, and we've all experienced it.
Sure.
For me, it's really emotional. I'm inspired by the people that are going from one job to the next, you know what I mean? And you're giving them an Uber ride and they're on the hustle. Right. And I'm like, God, it makes me want to work harder. Then there's you go to a hospital and you pick up somebody and they got the name tags on and something horrible's happened. Right. And those rides, there's the late night, goofy things, drunks and stuff like that, but there's a lot of stories. So the way I kind of look at rideshare is it's kind of like the best part of a blind date. I've never been on a blind date, but I don't know the passenger. They don't know me. Yeah. And so when we get in the car, we tend to have our best stories. We're trying to make an impression as like a blind date.
Yeah.
So I have the same routine. Like I've done 8,000 something rides and I'm like the same thing every 10 minutes. It's the same thing. Well, the same thing is true with the passengers. They get in the car and they ask us the same things typically, right? What do you do for a living or whatever. But if you know how to like ask the right way, if you have enough, paying attention to the passenger, you can quickly get them to divulge freaking anything.
Yeah.
They will tell you everything and anything. Right. Sometimes stuff you don't want to know.
Sometimes there's something you don't want to know.
Exactly.
So I started writing that book. There's some stuff that I'm still passionate about, like economics. I'm fascinated by artificial intelligence and EVs and the economics. I think the gamification of Uber, while it pisses me off as a driver, I'm still blown away by it.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty impressed with it.
It is.
From an economic standpoint.
They spend a lot of money on R&D for that.
Sure do. So I wrote a lot about stuff like that. It's a little bit of a memoir. It's a lot about different rides that I took from the first ride that I've taken and some, bad rides, good rides, some advice, for drivers and stuff like that. And now I'm working to get that published. So I think that's the thing I really want to do, Jason, is to get that out in the world.
Perfect. So I kind of thought of this on the fly. I think it's good for these interviews. Like what one positive thing can you talk about currently going on in the gig economy that you like, and one thing that really pisses you off right now?
Yeah, I'll tell you about the thing that pisses me off more than anything is the content creators that don't drive anymore, that are fighting to get government or unions involved. The hell with them. It pisses me off. It doesn't mean that Uber and Lyft are right by any stretch. I think Uber and Lyft, they piss me off too.
Yeah.
But I think the people that are rallying these unions and these people, to basically put us, like here in New York, we have this New York minimum wage, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
And all it does is get more drivers out there in the market. And so, when my app is running and I got a passenger in the car, I'm making money, but now I'm sitting around longer because the drivers they're flooding the market. And so, that kind of stuff really pisses me off. I can deal with venting and frustrations and anger because I feel that too. But I think that the people that are on the outside, lawyers, elected officials, all these people trying to solve my problems. Yes. Like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Leave me the hell alone. Let me do my thing. And they're trying to solve everybody's problem with some sort of like, well, you need to make $1.20 per mile. Like, where'd that number come from? So you can see me. That pisses me off.
Yeah.
I think the good thing that's going on within the gig economy is I think Lyft is really making an effort to compete with Uber. I like the app. I've never done a lot of Lyfts, but this year I've committed to doing it more often. So every day I'm doing one or two. I don't make as much money in my market with Lyft, so I'm not going to turn it on for a full week and just go with it. But I like the app. I like Lyft does small little things that really impress me. It's like, Levi, here's what everybody said about you. Dude, I wait for that email every Tuesday or Wednesday. It comes down like a passenger said I was a nice guy. And it's like, remember when Uber used to have that?
I know.
Yeah.
Why would they turn that off? It's such an easy thing.
They were probably getting too many like bad things written or on, swear words or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I'm right with you though, Levi. I get that email because I have both my apps on all the time. So, you get that email at the end of the week. You did this many rides. This many people said you had a clean car, and this person said this about you. You're like, all right, give you a little pick me up right then when you read that email.
No doubt, yeah. So I think I think a good thing is, one of the downsides of Uber being so good at what they do is they're definitely bullying the market. And that's why drivers get pissed off because Uber could definitely shave, little bit of things here and there and nickel and dime us. And next thing you know, we're making less money. And a strong lift in the rideshare world is a good thing. And I'm excited. It's the subtle things like David, Rishner, like just like the way he presents himself online makes me go, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I know it's stupid.
Yeah.
But that's how I measure my life. And so I like that kind of stuff.
That's very cool. Last question. Joe says, while you have a conversation routine, what's the weirdest thing you've been asked by a rider? If you know anything. I have a terrible memory, so people ask me that shit all the time. I'm like, I have absolutely no idea. Go listen to all my podcasts. You'll probably hear something.
Oh my gosh, the weirdest thing a passenger's ever asked me.
Maybe something that was uncomfortable or...
Oh my gosh. I don't think the passengers have ever asked me anything weird. But I have gotten involved with like relationship things that I feel awkward about. I had this one woman get in my car. She said she's having stress with her husband. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, what? And this isn't a woman, maybe in her mid 30s. She's like, well, we got married and he doesn't, want to make love anymore. And I'm like, and I was like, I was like, what?
What do you want me to do?
All he does is play video games. And I remember like we had a real conversation, but I think it's hard because you can't see them. Like so I'm listening as much as I can. And so I don't know how they're going to react to what I say. So you're trying to like play it just right. Be like, yeah, I love Trump, or yeah, I love Biden.
Oh
yeah,
God.
Whatever.
Oh God.
So like, how do you repair, the romantic nature of your relationship with your husband? I think my advice was something along the lines of like, accidentally have the, he's a gamer, just like lose the remote control, and then forces him like that.
I find myself bullshitting answers that I wouldn't normally say. Like when I'm hearing like red flags, I want to say, hey, dummy, like the video game thing. I'm like, I would have said what I would say in my real life. I would be like, hey, you knew he played video games before you got married and he played them a lot and you still married him. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to say, but I'm not going to say that because I don't want to get shanked in the neck by somebody. You know what I mean?
And you want to get a tip.
And I want to get a tip.
Yeah, you got to be a little more political correct.
My favorite thing, though, is when you get a husband and wife or they're not, doesn't have to be married. And then she's like, what do you think about this? Like against him. And I'm like,
that's the worst. When they get arguing and then they pull you into it. That is the worst. They're
you know what I say?
Well, let's ask him. What does he think about this? I'm like, me no speak English.
No. I say, who paid for the ride? Who's paying for the ride? That is the person. I say that and they laugh and they think it's funny and everything.
Yeah, that is a good way to kind of calm things down a little bit with some humor.
Yeah. I think, but Larry, you drive in a college town, so you kind of understand where it is, in our world. I think the college kids are a lot more sexual than I thought I was.
Oh, for sure.
I have to tell them to cut it out in the back of my car.
Yeah.
I got a dash cam. They can see it all.
Yeah.
But
you just tell them, say, hey, this is going up on my OnlyFans if y'all don't stop. So
yeah. And the college girls, I think college boys, I expect them to talk the way they talk because that's the way I talk,
Oh, yeah.
But college girls, I'm like, if I'd have only known
exactly
when I was their age that they acted like this.
Well, what I think is like, I have a daughter who's 16. I'm like, God, if she talks like this, I would die.
For sure.
I know. I would totally. Yeah. And what's odd is I think a lot of the rides are like that, a lot. I'd say, a third of them after 10 o'clock at night are in this weird moment because it's dark in my car. Now I have lights, not super big flashy lights like a disco ball, but I have lights so I could see a little bit in there.
Yeah.
But it's dark. They're pretty drunk. And I was like, oh God, I feel like such an old man.
Oh God.
just get out of my car. Just get out of my car.
I feel like
I know what you mean, Levi. I'm 57. I'll be 58 in a few months. And I do have LEDs, like, and I stick up LEDs like in my floorboards and stuff. And then of course I have the Octopus tablet, which lights up a little bit back there. So it I
How
do
you
like that
the
better than
octopus?
the car just being completely dark. So you can
How do
see
you
a
like the
little bit.
octopus?
We love the Octopus tablet. I love it.
Yeah.
We both have
the
it. We've been
passengers really seem to love it. I mean, during the day, I do drive during the day also, and it doesn't get a lot of use during the day. But once it's nighttime, people are going out. The college kids seem to love it. They love playing the trivia, and there's nothing like having 3 drunk people there about 2:30 in the morning yelling at each other. I told you that was the wrong answer, you idiot. What are you doing?
Can I show you something?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
All right, hold on.
All right. That was classic.
It was perfect. It was the right movement and everything.
He has done this before.
Let's see here. This here.
He's created
this
something.
Is my tablet. So I made it my own.
Did you really?
So I have this. Yeah. And it just goes through different trivia.
Okay.
And but the whole point was I wanted to get tips.
Sure. Wow, good job.
So every 3 minutes it does this, but I created my own memoji.
Okay.
Right. And it's about, Syracuse or Ithaca.
All right.
I designed it with the intent to do that. So, because I thought that the octopus or whatever it is a good idea, but I felt it was just very impersonal. Mm-hmm. And the minute they find out I designed it,
of course, yeah.
And it took love that. It took like 20 minutes to put the whole thing together.
It's just a slideshow, right?
Yeah.
It's a slideshow, and I locked the screen
because
the first night I didn't lock the screen. It was on Pornhub by Two
sure.
Rides.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that wouldn't take long. I've had passengers ask me like, "Oh man, you did this? You did this tablet?"
I did too.
Can't take credit for it, but
the biggest thing I get too is like, can I download this app? Which I love that they can't. I love that it's exclusive for drivers because then, so like if they want that content, they have to take an Uber. The company that does the Octopus, they are so driver focused, and I really, really can't thank them enough how well they've done that stuff. But I'm glad. That's so funny that you did your own. That's so great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, well wrapping up here. How can people get a hold of you? Obviously, I'll have the links in the description, but
Yeah, I think just, YouTube is where most people start. And again, I try to create the YouTube channel where it's, driver oriented. That's the only piece of content that's really specifically for the drivers. If they go to my website, they can definitely engage with me there too. There's more, I created a course for $9 a year. You can try to take my course and stuff like that. But most really versed drivers don't want to do that. And I get that. Yeah. Or maybe experienced drivers, not versed. But tipping it up, go to the YouTube channel and engage. And I like to have fun with it, and I want a community. So if you make a comment, I'm going to respond.
Yeah.
I want to, I want to go at it. Just one other thing that I do that's not necessarily tipping the app, but I want to make sure it's clear is I do this show called Drivers Coast to Coast on X. So Len and Matt are the co-hosts of that show. It's something similar to this. And I'm just a guy on the show, right? So Matt's the pro producer. He's really good at that, and Lynn is she's the kind of the idea person behind it. But I do that too. So I like being out there, and no matter what platform you're on, I try to be out there. So Medium, Substack.
Medium, I don't even know what that is.
Medium is where I publish a lot of the stories. A lot of the stories that I do that I talked about. It's a writer's oriented.
That's why I'm not
content, there. Right? Yeah. I'm even on LinkedIn. So if you want to do that, we could talk there too, whatever you want.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Levi. Just stay on the line real quick while I end this. And I appreciate it. It was such good advice, good tips, good stories. And have a good night, guys. We will. Sorry, Larry, we screwed this up. And because I think the last B-side, or maybe it was me and Jesper, we forgot to do it. So, our sign off. So we say, I fucked it up. As always, don't put up with anyone's bullshit.
And we'll see you on the road.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
I'm like Ron Burgundy. If I don't have my rundown up that literally says the line, even though I've said it for, 70 shows, I'll fuck it up. This podcast is produced and edited by Hey Guys Media Group. Want to start a podcast? Check out heyguysmediagroup.com.